This is Monocle on Design Extra. It's a short show to accompany our weekly programme where we discuss everything from architecture and craft to furniture and fashion. I'm Maylie Evans. Interest in mid-century Danish furniture has never been greater amongst collectors and connoisseurs. Last year, a chair and sofa set by Finn Juhl sold at auction for almost £500,000. And in Denmark, companies like Carl Hansen are doing a booming trade in reissues of pieces from their archive. Copenhagen's Design Museum Denmark has also experienced an exponential increase in interest, with visitor numbers having tripled over the past decade. In recognition, the institution now has a new permanent exhibition, Danish Modern, looking at the genesis and evolution of furniture design in the Nordic nation over the last century. The centrepiece of which is a revamped tunnel of chairs with over 140 different examples. Monocle's Copenhagen correspondent Michael Booth went along to meet Christian Olesen, the museum's head of exhibitions and collections, to find out what it is with the Danes and their chairs, and to hear how one of the most iconic designs by Arne Jacobsen is perhaps not as original as many might believe.
The new exhibition is about what we call Danish modern. Normally we would say it's mid-century Danish design, but we think it goes from the 1920s to about 2000. And it's about how Danish design became world famous, how it became a brand and an important part of design history. It's actually more popular now than in the 50s, and also that it's part of the history of the museum. The museum played a very important role in the development of Danish design. This was the place where more than 50% of the classics and icons were presented for the first time.
There was a major exhibition in 1949, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Actually, there was an exhibition every year, but 1949 was the year when the American journalists came to see the exhibition and they started writing about Danish design. And then suddenly it all exploded and everyone in the West wanted furniture from Denmark.
Where were they writing for? Who were these journalists? Do you know?
The most important magazine was called Interiors, and they made an article about Danish design in February 1950.
And what caught their eye? Any particular pieces back then?
It was especially the organic forms by Hans Wegner, Finn Juhl and others. And then it was also because of the craftsmanship, because there was a sort of romantic movement in the US after the Second World War, who wanted to go back to the good old days before industrialization. And here in the introduction room, we have chosen 15 words which the journalists and the researchers use all the time about Danish design. Words like craftsmanship, humanism, classicism, organic forms, social awareness, simplicity, and so on.
And of course, we're starting with the Danish chair. What is it with Danes and chairs?
I think 1949, when Denmark had its breakthrough, Hans Wegner had designed a chair which he called the round chair. But the Americans, they called it the chair, and the English called it the classic chair. It became so famous and so iconic, and he said, it's completely wrong. It's just a top rail and four sticks. How difficult can it be? I can do it better. And he designed more than 500 different chairs throughout his life. And many other Danish designers, they had to prove that they could make the perfect chair. Maybe also because foreigners have said, you are like that, and then they try to...
Sort of a self-perpetuating thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Danes are associated with chairs, so all Danish designers have to do a chair, and they're still doing them.
They're still doing them, and that's part of the tradition, because early in the 18th century, 19th century, the Danish artists were inspired by the antique, and they had chairs made for themselves, like in the antique Christmas chairs. And all the designers who came after that, they wanted to make chairs which were better than these classic chairs. So it's one big competition on how can you make the ultimate chair, the chair.
Do you have an ultimate, Christian?
No. No.
Come on, I'm going to push you on this.
But then I would quote Hans Wegner. He said, all that talk about the chair, the perfect chair or the chair, it's nonsense, because you cannot make the perfect chair. You can always make a better chair.
So you continue and...
let's do that.
See if we can outrun the vacuum cleaner. Oh, wow. And so this is the famous chair tunnel. Tell me about this.
Which has even become a little bit longer. Some years ago, I decided to exhibit as many chairs as possible in one room because people are asking to come to the storeroom and see the chairs all the time. Now we have a little bit more, around 140 chairs, but every chair is so important and so well designed that it should be put in a frame. So every chair is in a box. They are divided into types so that you can see the Danish stools together, or for example the Danish peasant chairs. And what you see when you compare the chairs is that they are very similar. All the designers are taking over designs from other designers and trying to improve all the time. And that's what Danish design really is about. It's not about innovation or revolution.
You have room for foreign designers. There's a Gio there and Eames, of course, over there. So there are international representatives.
Down here we have a British designer, Jasper Morrison, here, and he's strongly inspired by the Danish design method. Here he tried to redesign the famous wishbone chair by Hans Wegner, and he combined it with Arne Jacobsen's number 7. This is one of the most famous chairs, the number 7 by Arne Jacobsen in plywood. But as you can see underneath is another chair, also by Fritz Hansen. It's actually the owner of the factory, Søren Hansen, who designed it. It's from 1943. And as you can see, the back is very similar to the number 7. And that's typical for Arne Jacobsen. He was always looking at other designs and see if he could improve on it and use the detail. And in this case, he has stolen the back from another chair, but he has made it so much better that he got world famous for this chair.
The names by all these chairs, they're nearly all men. Why is that?
If we also have a textile exhibition in the museum, and most of the names there are women, and that's just because most of the designers which were educated in that period were men, so therefore, but we also have women in here. Here one of the very famous Grete Hjalk, who made the most extreme plywood chair maybe ever made, because she bent the wood so much in a bow chair. Yeah, good example. Another example just next to her is Nana Ditzel, who lived in London for many years, and when she was old, she came back to Denmark and made this Trinidad chair, which is extremely popular. So there are certainly many good female Danish designers. Most of the objects here are actually pieces which come from the homes of the designers. One example here is Hans Wegner's ox chair, which was his favorite chair. He was making all the prototypes himself for his furniture. He has designed around 1,400 pieces of furniture. He worked all the time. And one other example over here, perhaps more famous, is Finn Juhl's chieftain sofa and the table to it. It was exhibited here in the museum 1949, and this is the original. And that's some of the furniture that the American journalists came here and started writing about. You can see on the picture how it was exhibited in the museum.
Oh, see, these are the actual... So behind us a photograph from 1949 of the exhibition in this building, and these are the pieces that were there.
These are the actual objects.
Finn Juhl, in particular, has had a spectacular revival in the last 20 years. What fueled that, do you think? There was generally a big revival in the late 90s, I would say, of Danish modern. What happened then?
Or in the late 60s and in the 70s and 80s, it wasn't popular at all. Finn Juhl, he couldn't get his thing into production in the 80s. He tried and made several series for Fritz Hansen and others, but they didn't believe in him. But suddenly, just after 2000, we saw the prices at the auctions, they were increasing. I think one of the reasons that Danish design became popular again, because it goes for Hans Wegner to a certain degree too, and many of the others, but it is that it's sort of timeless. They are all drawing on historical archetypes or historical references. In many cultures, they can recognize something from history in this furniture. It becomes, to a certain degree, timeless.
If there was one single most valuable piece in this collection, what would it be? I think Charles Rennie Mackintosh claims the most valuable chair in the world. I'm not sure.
Actually, we have maybe the best Macintosh chair.
Oh,
but it's not exhibited right now. But now actually Danish furniture has been sold as some of the most expensive, more expensive than British furniture from the 18th century, more expensive than Wiener Werkstätte from 1900, more expensive than Bauhaus and so on. We don't put values on the things here, but I would say the double chieftain chair that I just Finjul showed you, there's only this one in the world, and he's very popular. That is a very valuable thing, certainly.
And if we bring us up to date to 2024, how would you describe the state of Danish design, Danish furniture design now? Where are we? Where are we going?
It's much more mixed now. Some of the Danish designers are continuing the tradition back from Kåre Klint and the mid-century and using the same method of designing, studying older designs and improving on that. And some of them are more international and are more innovative, and many of the Danish designers are working internationally. So actually I think it's much more difficult today to talk about a national style or like it was in the 50s and 60s.
So I hadn't been able to pin Christian down to a favourite chair in the exhibition, but as we were leaving, a thought suddenly occurred to me. I wondered what chair he had at home.
I have German chairs from Bauhaus. Because I'm together with so many Danish chairs at work. So I want to relax when I come home.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Michael Booth there in conversation with Christian Olesen. That's all for this week. If you're eager for more design stories, then listen to our main programme, Monocle on Design, airing on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. London time. Or if you prefer print, then pick up a copy of Monocle magazine on all good newsstands now. Today's episode was produced by me, Maylie Evans. Thank you very much for listening.